So I've 39 years, I'm sort of thinking that's probably enough. I'd like to try something else. Coming up 60 now. Been to too many funerals lately and just think life's too short. So I'd like to try something else and just challenge myself in some other area. Well, obviously the Mount Erebus thing, I was only 22, been in the job a year and became a member of the Disaster Victim Identification Squad. Wasn't expecting anything to that degree, but I was called up to Auckland to identify the bodies. Bit of an eye-opener for a 22-year-old, so that helped me prepare for a lot of carnage that I experienced down in South Otago. Working there, the roads were terrible, the crashes. But the Erebus thing helped me prepare for dealing with bodies and things like that. The South Otago, had a real drinking problem in the old days, and the judges referred to it as the drinking capital of New Zealand. A lot of crashes, a lot of disorder in the pub and assaults. Because you're sharing gangs and fishermen and forestry workers. They were hard nuts, worked hard, played hard, and we bore the results of it in the pubs where there was a lot of assaults and disorder going on. But I quite enjoyed it, having a bit of a scuffle with them occasionally and a bit of fun. So in 2003, decided to move on to Mosgiel here, and it was an interesting start. The first couple of weeks I had two sheep trucks crashed. There was 600 stock killed in that crash up towards Middlemarch, so that was a hell of a mess. 2 kids killed on a Hindon farm, which was gutting. It was one of the things that really got to me more than anything else in the job. Was when that happened, because I had a young child of my own of that age, and I had a wee bit of trouble coping with that, but we got over it. So no, the roads, nothing like it used to be, but there's still issues there. People are still dying, but not to the same extent. The drink driving's still going on, but nowhere near the level it used to. I remember back in Kaitangata, in 1979, early 80s, I was in the senior reserve rugby team down there, and I ended up processing half the team for drunk driving, so I had to give rugby up, unfortunately. Oh, well, the old days used to give people a clip round the ear and a kick up the bum down South Otago there, but they didn't. I've seen them since, and they look me in the eye and say, that didn't do me any harm. But you got to, you got to draw the line. You can't overstep it too much, and we did in the old days. Actually, we policed the way we felt it needed to be policed, right down to kids picking up rubbish. If they're playing up in the main street of Balclutha, we'd make them get out of their cars and go and clean the rubbish up, or wash the police car outside the station. They hated that because their mates would be giving them a fair old ribbing. But that was old style policing, and that's the way, fair but firm. You got to be in a small place because you need their backup. And there was one example of that came home for me one night when the shearers came down for the golden shears back in the 80s, and the Black Power from Masterton, real hard nuts, down looking for trouble. And I was the only one on one night, and went to Kaitangata about 3 in the morning, and these utes come tearing out and nearly cleaned me up on a corner. So I chased them and locked up both drivers. They had a passenger each, gang members with patches. Ended up back at the station, and all of a sudden all these other ones appeared. We didn't have texting and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how. They must have seen them go past in the police car when we passed the pub. And they all come round and they crowded the station and they said, right, let's get this guy. We can do him over, and who's going to know? And I thought, God, the old hairs went up on my neck. And then a wee Maori fella popped up from the back. He says, Basil's all right. They used to call me Basil Faulty for some reason. Basil's all right, you do what he says, he's a good bugger. He picks me up when I'm pissed and takes me home, and we have a good old chat, and they did everything. They let me fingerprint them and photograph them and process them. But if I'd have treated that guy badly, I wouldn't be here now. I'm convinced of it. So he saved my bacon. He died of cirrhosis of the liver after that, unfortunately. Too much drinking. But I did hear a guy, Mac Oliver from Kai, he was a bus driver, and he was passing when he saw me arresting them. So he turned his bus round, and I could hear it ticking away outside, so I knew that at least he could ring the undertaker for me. So I appreciated that, and that's the support I got because I treated them firmly but fairly. It's the hardest part, and to go and ruin someone's life, unfortunately. That's what you're doing when you go and say their daughter or someone's not coming home, or mum or dad. You just devastate them. And even I get the willies when I see a police car pull up at my place. They might be just coming to have a chinwag, but you just don't know, and it's a horrible feeling. And it's trying to decide how you're going to break the news to people. You've got all these ideas, but it all turns to shit when you get there, and people just go to pieces. Others don't, it takes a while. But that's the part I hated the most, was actually talking to people afterwards and breaking that sort of news. And I'm sure I speak for a lot of cops. And having to do that, working at the scene's not present either, but you're that busy that your mind's not on it entirely, the bad things about it, you're just busy trying to get things in order, but afterwards it can chew away at you. I know that I had to go and see a psychologist 2 or 3 times over the years because it's just a cumulative effect of having to deal with so much of it, and then suddenly it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, that the body decides, or the brain decides, well, no, this isn't right. So you go away and get a recharge and have a bit of a chat and get back on with the job. Some people can't, they leave the job, it becomes too much for them. I'm getting on 60 now, just need to slow down, and I just like to try something different, even if it's selling ice creams.